Yo, what is up, guys? This is Pedro here. So, we got a lot of news to talk about. The Washington Commanders and Baltimore Ravens have canceled their joint practice next week. The Commanders also just made an addition to their squad in defensive back Daryl Worley. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and that notification bell as well so you never miss a video. We're like 250 subscribers away from 16,000. It is free. It takes 1 second, and it really helps out a ton. And comment down below your thoughts on the signings and any guys you want the Commanders to sign. So let's get right into it. So let's talk about first the Ravens and Commanders mutually agreeing to call off the joint practice. This sucks because I was really looking forward to that. Jaden Daniels versus Lamar Jackson. I mean, they wouldn't be on the field at the same time, of course, but it would just be cool to, compare them and, see, all right, how does Jaden look compared to Lamar in terms of, how good of a quarterback he is. And, it is what it is. And, it's just a good test as well. The Ravens are a really good franchise and are consistently a good team. So the fact that, we're not able to have this joint practice is unfortunate because it would have been more reps for everyone, the starters, the backups, the third stringers too. And the starters wouldn't have played in the preseason. Your third preseason game, you don't usually play. It just really doesn't happen. Maybe this changes things and they play a little bit more in that third preseason game. I don't know about that. I just think in general it's going to lead. I mean, obviously, it's going to lead to fewer reps getting, distributed because, there's fewer reps. They aren't able to have that full joint practice. But I think specifically fewer reps for these starters that, probably aren't going to get anything during that preseason game. So unfortunate there. It's a scheduling issue. The Commanders have that Monday night game against the Bengals, in a few days from now. And, the Ravens, I don't know when their preseason game is, but I guess it's just an imbalance of, when their preseason game is. I don't think it matters that much, but I'm not a coach. I'm not a player. So, I guess it's just, a disadvantage, I guess, for the Commanders with, their game on Monday and maybe the Ravens having a game on Friday or Saturday, maybe Sunday. And it's just a lot more rest for the Ravens. But, I feel like they've known about this for a while now. So I don't know why all of a sudden they decided to make that decision because, I mean, the preseason schedule, it's been out for a while. I mean, it probably was out before they decided to make that, joint practice public. I don't, in terms of, having that joint practice. Maybe I'm wrong, but I know the date, I'm pretty sure the dates at least were there. Maybe not the times, but that doesn't matter too much. But all right, that's besides the point. They canceled joint practice. It is what it is, but it's not a huge deal, but it would have just been good to have some, more reps for these guys. All right, Nikki Javala from not Washington Post anymore, The Athletic, she reported or tweeted out the Commanders signed Daryl Worley. I didn't see Twitter's been bugging, so I didn't see where this came from, but she tweeted it, so I'm sure it's true. I tried to find it on the Commanders, Twitter, any other, reporters, but again, Twitter is bugging right now, so, I'm trusting her on this one. They also brought him in and a few other guys for a workout, so, it does make sense. Daryl Worley, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys know who he is. He's been in the league for a long time. I mean, 2016 to 2024, a Ron Rivera guy, played under Ron Rivera in, Carolina. I'm sure Ron Rivera wanted him to come, to the Commanders. But, like I said, he's played for a while for a lot of different teams. The Panthers, the Raiders, the Cowboys, the Lions, the Ravens, the Titans. Last year, played in 9 games, 52 tackles, had 1 forced fumble, 1 interception, 2 pass breakups, and 1.5 stuff. So he's still getting PT. Like this isn't like a random camp body that you're bringing in. I mean, maybe it ends up being a guy that doesn't make the roster, and maybe it is a camp body, but it's not one of those like guys that haven't really played much. Maybe gotten into 1 or 2 games ever. This guy, he's played in 98 games in the NFL. he has 350 tackles, a couple sacks, 6 interceptions. This guy's been, in the league for a while. He knows how it works. And, even last year, 9 games, and still got an interception, a forced fumble. Like, he had production. So this is a guy that has played a lot and has played recently. So could mean that, he's more than just a camp body. Maybe he sneaks his way onto the roster. Maybe he ends up making the practice squad. I would be not shocked, but I would be pretty surprised if he makes the 53-man roster. Who knows? But, practice squad is always available, and I'm pretty sure it used to be, you had a maximum amount of years that you could, you couldn't be past a certain amount of years played in the league and then get on the practice squad. But I believe after the pandemic, they waived that. But, Daryl Worley, I like this signing. I think it's a good signing. Some information here. I'm trying to close that ad. You can see some more information about him, advanced stats. Some of this, the way they chart it, it's kind of subjective. Some people might think that is on the cornerback. Some people might think it's on a safety, but they chart it regardless. You can see his numbers throughout the years. The passer rating allowed, is pretty high. All things considered. But the completion percentage, some years, like for the Titans, 82%, which is crazy. But then with the Ravens, it was 28.6, which is really good in 12 games. And then the year before that was 54.5. So 2023, he had an elite cornerback season. Not a lot of sample size, but played 12 games and started 2 of them. So he was doing something right. And last year still started 7 games. So the guy can still, the guy has been playing, and it's not like he hasn't been in the league for 8 years, 7 years, or he's barely played ever. That's not the case. So just watch out for him. I'm not saying he's making the roster or going to make an impact, but he is a guy that, has had success in the league before. Other stuff, maybe I'll make a video about it. I know Ben Stanek was talking about Brian Robinson and saying, he might not be on the team, whether that's a cut, a trade. I don't know about that. Y'all know I'm not the biggest B-Rob fan, but for them to cut him, I would say is a little bit crazy. Like, he's still useful on the team. He's still, can, run, he's still a running back in this league, and he's still, you still want that insurance policy because, like, knock on wood, hopefully it doesn't happen. But if Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt gets hurt, then I'm not feeling good about Eckler getting 20 carries in a game. I'm not feeling good about McNichols getting 20 carries, like maybe Rodriguez, but he's not making the roster. So you want to have that insurance policy. And then B-Rob also, can block pretty well as a, blitz pickup type of guy. And then also, you still want him, even if Ja'Cory is a starter, which we don't even know yet if that's the case. But even if Ja'Cory is a starter, B-Rob is still going to get significant carries. He's going to get, at least 6 to 10 carries, I would say, every game. And Ja'Cory might start off with like 10, 12, and then maybe it'll go a little bit higher. But even at that point, I still would think that B-Rob would get you 3, 4 carries. Again, we're not necessarily even at that point. Who knows if B-Rob's going to be the starter? He could still be the starter. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and peace.